in my game. I talk about everything in my memoir, The Mother Black Hollywood, everything from my addictions to molestations, abortions, childhood abuse. There's no shame in my game. Yeah, bitch, it happened. You know, I slept with 63 men. Now that was fabulous. But
oh my gosh, give me some of that.
Yeah, no, you don't want that.
Damn, she kept track of the body count. This is a flex, like the Predator.
You know what I wish I had known? I wish I'd known my body was a temple. I didn't know it. I know it now. And
what let you know that maybe, oh, this is a problem?
I'm listening. Oh, no, I never knew it was a problem. I thought everybody was hey, titties and hips for my book. But anyway, yeah. No, I didn't know it was a problem. The addiction, look, when you get off a Broadway stage and all that ovations and applause and people praising you and the mobbage and the homage, what are you going to do? You're going to either go stick something in your arm, you're going to go smoke something, you're going to drink something to come down from that high. So I used to just go find a gorgeous man and out of him. What are you going to do? Hey, I mean, that's what I did. I would have.
Acting as if hypergamy isn't a social construct tells me everything I need to know about men and the men who use these terms. But here's the thing about all of this. Women are not hypergamous. There is little to no data to support the idea that women are hypergamous. Even socially, I'm saying, from a social concept, not scientifically.
So in this video, this guy is talking about hypergamy. It's a pretty long video and he makes a lot of different claims. He says hypergamy is entirely a social construct, that money, status, and attractiveness have nothing to do with biology, that men invented the concept to manipulate women, and that they use it to justify transactional relationships and objectifying women. Some of those criticisms are relatively fair, while others are simply false. But I want to concentrate on his central claim. Women are not hypergamous. There's little to no data to support the idea that women are hypergamous. So let's check it. By the way, in his comments, he bet 1,000, I suppose, dollars to prove him wrong. You guys decide by the end of the video if I won that $1,000. First, what does hypergamy actually mean? Traditionally, it refers to partnering upward in social or economic status. Online, however, the term is often used more broadly for women having also physical preferences. For example, men who are taller than them. So it doesn't mean every woman wants a billionaire, or that every woman always dates upwards on every single characteristic. It describes average preferences and patterns. But is there little to no data showing women place greater importance on a partner's resources or status? No, there is actually plenty. A large 2020 study examined 14,399 people across 45 countries. It found that women, more than men, preferred partners who were older and had stronger financial prospects. Men, more than women, prioritized youth and physical attractiveness. You could argue that people do not always behave exactly as they answer in surveys. Fair enough. So another study analyzed the actual behavior of more than 1.8 million online daters across 24 countries. Higher education and income increased the romantic attention received by both men and women, but the increase was almost 2.5 times stronger for men. And this difference appeared in every country included in the study. Then there was an online dating field experiment in China. Researchers created profiles with different stated incomes. Men visited female profiles at roughly similar rates regardless of the women's income. Women, however, visited higher income male profiles more often at every income level. The interest even jumped when the men's income became higher than the woman's own income. The highest income male profiles
wouldn't date a man because he's bisexual is absolutely rooted in biphobia and homophobia. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? You're telling me that you've met a man and he checks off every single one of your boxes. He's smart, he's funny, you're physically attracted to him, he has a well-paying job, he's goal-oriented, like every single thing on your list, this man checks off. But then you find out he's bisexual and all of a sudden, you're no longer attracted to him, you no longer want to date him. Mind you, just 4 syllables ago, you were attracted to him, he was marking off everything, he was your dream guy. It's only because he's bisexual that now you're no longer attracted. And you want me to believe that that's not rooted in biphobia or homophobia.
The wildest thing I ever did.
Well, what's the wildest thing you ever did?
The wildest thing I ever did was sleep with 2 guys on the same day.
That's not that wild.
And my son is 3 now.
I didn't hear that.
You know which one it was, right?
I'm 99.99% sure that the guy who I believe it is his dad. But there was never any testing done, so...
But he's just stepped up?
No, he's a deadbeat. He's never met our son.
Right.
But my son looks just like him. But the other guy was my stalker, so I can't even, like, go that route. Because he's schizophrenic and manic and bipolar and crazy. So I'm kind of stuck with the deadbeat one.
This is diabolical.
My son's 3 now, though. He's happy. He's healthy.
Are you like thinking about what you're gonna tell your son?
Absolutely.
Wanted to date me because they didn't want to be with a woman that sexual expression part was not for them. It was like shared with the world. So like guys, when I would try to date, when I was dating or who I was engaged at the time, that didn't work out because I was sharing a part of myself that men wanted to be saved for them only. And the fact that I would, you know, pose nude or dance in very little clothes or show my body was making them feel like I was taking something away that was meant to be for them.
Why do these mid-30 women finally have the epiphany? Some women refuse to listen to what men say that they want. It's a double standard, by the way. Women expect men to not only understand them, but to give them what they want. But when men come out and say, this is what we want, oh no.
No one wanted to date me.
All right. Welcome everyone who is watching from our respective platforms to another episode of The Panel with the Ladies. I'm your host, Jeff St. James. We have Dr. Messy, Anita, Maggie, and Crimson here this evening. How y'all ladies doing?
I'm already disturbed.
Okay. Well, listen, Jennifer Lewis kind of sparked this off a week or so ago when it came to her acknowledging of her being with, I think it was 63 or 64 men or something like that. And per usual, every time there's a interesting topic like this where it should be pretty obvious where there might be a problem, there seems to continuously be a split. And we did even see an example of a public offender getting another L when it came to him being on the wrong side of saying that apparently women are hypergamous. And I think that's also connected to this conversation when it comes to the exposure that these ladies are constantly having, because they're often comparing the men that's sitting in front of them today to the men we've been with in the past. So there's a whole bunch of different clips. Which one stood out to y'all, which y'all think? And and for everybody that's currently watching, if you haven't done so, please make sure that you guys make sure that you like this. Make sure that you send it to at least 2, 3, 4, even 5 people, and make sure y'all subscribe to everybody that you see on the screen. Anita, well, let's you kick us off. What you think?
Okay, so Jennifer Lewis, I think she's the exception. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of young women out here that probably have more bodies than her. I mean, at least I can say, she's in her 60s. Mm-hmm. She's in her 60s. She's a celebrity. She's an actress. Like, some of that number, kind of makes sense in the sense of she's in Hollywood. She's in this wild acting world. She's older. And let's be honest, we've seen some 20-something-year-olds that have more bodies than her. But I think she's the exception for women in that age range. I don't think most women her age have 63 bodies. I think it's just, her being in that Hollywood world and all of that. And then Jennifer has never shied away from being very, she's always been that way. She's very honest to a fault. She's very out there in your face. I don't know. Is it a cautionary tale? I mean, if so, that's a good thing. Maybe she's saying all of this to kind of alert younger women, like, hey, this is all the things that happened to me. This is all that I've been through. And if you can avoid it, you should avoid it, right? Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's actually a really good thing, that she is putting all of her business on Front Street as a cautionary tale. The substance abuse, the sleeping around, the abortions, and she said abortions with an S. So maybe she's doing this. She's taking an L for the team to say, look, don't do what I did. So in that regard, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe she's, saying all of this to see if she can save some of the younger women. But we all have seen videos of younger women in their 20s that have more than 63 bodies.
Yeah,
so
triple digits at this point.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So.
Question with Anita, with what you're saying about the possibility that she's putting this out to raise awareness. Do you think Kiki took it like that?
She should have. I think,
and that I could play it again.
Yeah.
When she first said it, I think Kiki said, "Give me some of that."
Right.
Right? Yeah. So the problem is I think that there's a lot of ladies who do, young and older, who have the mentality of Kiki, where they're hearing this and they're seeing it as an expression of a woman who was famous, well off, did well, enjoyed it, probably wouldn't have did as many, and that's it. I don't know that a lot of ladies that are watching it right now are seeing it, unfortunately, as a cautionary tale. What y'all think?
I think Jennifer Lewis was not the drop my mouth open person on that montage you had there, but I don't care that Jennifer Lewis slept with 63 people. I'm just a little confused why at her age she has to come out here and let the world know, but do it on a platform with Keke Palmer, who, even though she get on my nerves, she's still relatively young. And I just don't think it's appropriate. If you want to go on maybe even a show like this and talk about your life or something, but you're sitting there saying that in front of her. And she did say, give me some of that. So it's like an impression that you're leaving. Jennifer Lewis is we know who she is. She's been in a lot of movies. She does a lot of roles. She fine. She direct, all that type of stuff. If she wanted to be a hoe, then be a hoe. Why do we have to know about it? That's all. Like, can we keep anything to ourselves? But the one that made me drop my mouth is the girl talking about the 3-year-old, and she don't know which one is the dad, but I'm gonna choose this one. And it looked like they was in Atlanta, so maybe that's why it worked that way. I don't know, but that is crazy. I just feel like these women, and it's usually Black women. I know white people do it too, but it's usually Black women coming out here saying this stuff. And then when people say, things about Black women, then they get all offended. And it's like, well, if y'all would ever shut up, we all don't need to know this. Keep some things to yourself. Use one of those diaries we used to use in the old days where you write it down and you lock it and you put it underneath your bed, because this is, then when we talk about you, then you're mad. We wouldn't know if you didn't tell us. And I'm going to keep talking about him.
Maggie and Crimson, what y'all think?
Well, I don't think it's any surprise that I had no idea about this, because in the bigger picture, nobody is concerned about the horrid sex life of a, golden girl. I actually respectfully disagree with Miss Anita. I don't think she was contrite at all. I think this is a further normalization of the ratchetness that is plaguing our community. And for a woman at her big age to say it in such a flippant way and laugh, she said, so I've been with 63 men, who the what cares? This is basically giving tacit permission to the younger audience that Keke Palmer has, that, look, I did it, I'm fine, so can you. I think it is one of the worst things that is happening, and I think it's treacherous for older women to lead younger women into a burning building and be laughing and cackling all the way there. So you have 63 bodies, one for almost every year of your life, and now on the backside of that, you realize your body is a temple. Where was the temple loving body before you had 63 bodies?
I told y'all about this religion. I told y'all.
So I think it's disgusting. I agree with the comments. Some other people were saying, if you were going to say this at all, which I don't think it should have been said, there are some things you just have to take to your grave. And that's what we used to know as older people. Like, everything isn't for public consumption. I don't know why people think my truth and everybody needs to know your truth. It's damaging, but I guess you don't care. But I think if you were going to speak on this at all, it would be better if you had said, don't do what I did. This is what it cost me. This is a 60-plus-year-old woman, never married. I looked at her bio right before this because I remember her from the sitcom with Tracy Ellis Ross. But other than that, like, what is she doing now? She's not talking about her foundation. She's not talking about any upcoming field. She's talking about the good old days, like it was a roaring good time. So for me, I think if you're going to talk about it, I think we owe the younger generation to say, don't be like me. This is what it cost me. Never married. I think she said 4 engagements. So she's another one collecting rings like infinity stones, multiple abortions. Like, it's just, this is just what you do. You know, if you're in that celebrity Hollywood lifestyle, that's just what it is. So again, this is the reason why on the men's side, Kevin Samuels used to say he didn't talk about athletes and entertainers because their world is not our world. Their life is not our life. And my fear is the young women, the young wives and mothers that are in the chat that live in the real world, that have real responsibilities, are looking at this foolishness thinking, well, if she did it, I guess it's okay. It's not okay. And I said so.
Crimson, before you go real quick, let me read a couple of these super chats. D Coldest Jenkins, thank you for the $2. Passports over Pookie's leftovers. Save yourself, black men. Appreciate you, sir, for the $2. Carl Maxey, $5. It's strange girls like Keke Palmer praising Jennifer Lewis, but Felicia Rashad gets called to pick me. Some women don't want to listen to anybody. Jesus. Man, let me thank you for the $5, sir. And everybody, if you want to support, if you have a question, if you have a comment, feel free to hit the super chat button so we do not miss y'all support in any way. Crimson, what you think?
My only real objection to the Jennifer Lewis thing, and like Miss Anita said, she's always been this forward. That's just her personality. My only real objection is the way in which she presented it and the platform that she presented it on. I don't have a problem with her honesty, though, because if a lot of older women had been more honest about their promiscuity to the younger women, maybe the younger women would have had a better time of it instead of trying to act like she was that church-going woman, big mama that she is when her grandkids met her, instead of that chick that used to be down at the speakeasy before that. Maybe if a lot of these older women had stripped away a little bit of that shame, enough to tell their daughters and their granddaughters about some of the stuff that they did and how those things didn't work out for them and how it made them feel and what kind of damage it did to them internally, that actually probably would have been a bit better. Even though she told Keke, you don't want none of this, and she framed what she did as an addiction. Like she said, you know, after you get the high of somebody chanting your name, you have to come down off of that. Most people will never experience that part of it. And she was like, some of us drank, some of us shot something in our arm, some of us smoked something, some of us had sex. I chose sex as the outlet for that. People probably would have been more forgiving, I guess, if she said she used to do dope for 15 years or 30 years, and now her body's a temple. You know what I'm saying? She after she shot dope up, and would she have been more or less valuable? Would we be talking about it had she said she was on heroin for 30 years and got clean? You know what I'm saying? Because the reality is that's the only issue I'm having with her, because in reality, Jennifer Lewis got to be almost 70 years old. Don't nobody care about no penis that she got in the Cretaceous period. Don't nobody care nothing about no Cretaceous period penis. That's old. Okay. And as well as you just as old as the penis that you received. So we don't care. We don't have no real feelings about that. You know, she old. Don't nobody care nothing about them old. You know, she don't even half remember. I'm surprised she could keep up with the number. Because I've heard, like Miss Anita's point, I've heard the younger women say they had 2,000 bodies on them.
Yeah.
Diamond the Body came out and said, I got about 2,000 bodies on me.
Yeah.
And she's like in her early mid 30s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer Lewis is modest, unfortunately. When we start talking about these young chicks getting ran through, okay? Not that we agree with being ran through, right? We don't agree with that. We understand. I think women, I'm going to say this too, because that was not the most egregious video that you showed either. Jennifer Lewis was not the most egregious of those videos. Them video, her old girl with the bisexual and old girl with the baby.
Oh, we will cover that next.
But
yeah,
I'll say this much as well about it. when we start talking about whether or not the men have an opinion or a value placement for women on their body counts, I need for women to understand how it negatively affects them before a man get to them. The high body count isn't so much about whether or not men will accept you later. It's about the damage you do to yourself on your own. Whether a man accepts you or not, you've done damage to yourself. You've done it to your body, and more importantly, you've done it to your spirit, to your mind, to your emotional self. A whole lot of various sexual partners is not good for nobody. Men either. But it affects men differently than it affects women. Women are affected differently, and we can hold some of the more physical negative traits. She had baby deletions. You see what I'm saying? So what did that do to her womb and her body? What did that do to her mind? You know what I'm saying? Having to get rid of those babies. You don't think she sat up and thought about that? You don't think she in the dark of night, you don't think she done sat up and cried about that? And beat herself up about all of that? After the fact, though, you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter if a man come. I need the women to understand. You can't do that to you. You can't do it to you because it hurts you. Let alone it hurts your value with men. That plays into it, but it hurts your value, period. It hurts your body. It hurts your mind. And it hurts your emotions. Like, we gotta start taking that a little bit more serious. Just because we're in this era of free sex and we gotta dead that, because it's not a good look, and it's not a good feeling either. And I think more women need to be more honest about the negative part of that, instead of saying, oh, well, I slept with these many men and body count don't matter and it shouldn't matter. I should still be valuable to a man. We dead that conversation. Tell the truth.
They don't want it. It doesn't matter who says it, how it's packaged. And this is the crazy part. 4 of those, I think 5 or 6 videos we saw, we were looking at examples of where this thought leads to. And one of them that you mentioned, Crimson, was the young lady that was talking about if body count is not supposed to matter, and you're not supposed to factor a person's sexual past and how many people they've been with, that also applies to who they've been with. So my argument is the women only actually have the standard for men that they want to still accept them and not judge them. How do we know this? Because if you ask those same women, a huge percentage of them, if they were to find out that the guy that's pursuing them, the guy that likes them, the guy that's interested in them, and potentially they're going to sleep with, every single one of them will want to at least know in advance whether or not that man has slept with another man in the past. They would. And I would argue that if a man was to omit that information, he would be removing consent from those ladies to make that decision or choice that they made. Many of them probably wouldn't even follow up on. Most women would want to know whether or not a man has been, if he has had a history with men sexually. Most heterosexual women would want to know that, period. So that they can make an informed decision whether or not they're going to use protection, whether or not they're not going to do anything at all. Most women would want to know that. They don't want to find that out in happenstance or somebody's gossiping or so. They would want to know if that man. Most women probably don't care if he's been with a decent amount of women. What they care about is if he's been with men and if he's a virgin. That's what women care about. 9 times out of 10. Because the very women that they find out a guy is a virgin and he's of a certain age, they say, well, what's wrong with him? Why isn't any of the other women gotten there, or he's, what's going on? Something, is he gay? Like, that's what starts to be, that women are factoring body count. And when you say you're not allowed to, that young lady on the screen that made that comment about How can you, a man that checks off all your boxes, how can you disqualify him because he's bisexual or has been with men in the past? It sounds crazy as an argument, but it's not crazy because it's the same argument that these same women are making to men. So what do y'all think about that in terms of her argument and whether or not it's actually in line with the original point ladies are making, which is a woman's body count and her sexual history and past shouldn't matter and shouldn't be a factor? What y'all think?
I didn't know people was asking questions about whether you've been with a man or not. I have not come across any of those videos. That's
Well,
new.
this is what I'm saying. I know for a fact when I've talked to ladies, and I've actually done this test, and it turns out they absolutely would want to know that. They are assuming that men don't have this in their background, but they would like to know that information if a man actually has that in his background. They like this whole idea of we're married, we got 2 kids, and I'm just now finding out you've been sleeping with men in the past. That's not, that's a no-go. Most women would absolutely want to know if he did have that in his past that he would tell her. So yeah.
Well, I lived through the AIDS epidemic, so I've been asking men that question for over 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I am literally traumatized growing up in the 80s and the 90s. So to this day, that is a requirement. I ask a man, has he had any sexual contact with a man? And I'm very specific about oral, anal, all of the things, protected or unprotected. I've been asking that question for 25 years because I lived in Atlanta for 6 years. that was the stomping ground in which I developed these skills because most of the men there have been with men. So yes, if ask the questions, make these men get tested, use condoms, all of the above, because yes, women often say, well, men lie. Okay, but I at least want you to be able to say that you asked the direct question, because a lot of women don't. A lot of women don't question, like you said, if the man has had sex with a man or sexual contact. That's what I say. Have you had any sexual contact with a man? Have you kissed a man? Have you entered a man? Has a man entered you? Has your mouth been on a man? Has a man's mouth been on you? I
Not
ask all
doing
the
the bending.
I ask all the questions.
Looking up, Anita. Yeah, but Anita, my question is, and I think what you're parsing out, and I agree with, they would want to know that information, but they're not asking. A lot of these ladies, I'm telling you, and it's twofold. The normalization of, remember when we talked about a few weeks ago about this whole, the relationship between gay and bi men and black women and how they have these deep friendships and bonds and everything. I won't be shocked about the surprise of a little, hopping the fence and behind the scenes stuff. Like, I'm not surprised by that because at the end of the day, their anatomy is their anatomy. My issue is I think that they would absolutely want to know that information in advance, but they're not asking. They're not asking. They're either assuming or they're too scared to want to find out. And the rates in Houston, the rates in Atlanta, look them up. Look them up. So absolutely women, and especially nowadays, I think women should care now more than ever because, as you said, the body count for Jennifer Lewis is considered low for a lot of ladies' standards for themselves now. So that means she's sleeping with a whole bunch of other men as well. So, I think that this is definitely new territory. And real quick, Dr. L, thank you for the $5. Please explain the role that men play in this process. Should men develop the skills and discipline to ignore these types of women? I'll speak first. We're probably about like 35-40% of the equation. And the reason why I don't make it 50-50 is twofold. Obviously, both sides have consent, both sides have autonomy, both sides can have sex or not have sex. But one side has a greater pool of opportunities of people that want to sleep with them versus the other way around. That's just the reality of it. And the minority of men that get that option, we would love it if they handled that responsibly. But I know how it works, and I know how the game works. And those men only can get that access if women allow them. I know the game. And at the end of the day, you know, there's very few men that I know of under the age of 35 or 40 that can get constant sexual attention and it being thrown at them and they don't eventually cave in to some degree. So the reality is, you know, I think that this is one of those situations where, you know, it can affect both parties in different ways, but I think it's one of those situations where men have a role to play, but I think much of the dating market, relationships, marriage, and even giving kids, women get to dictate a lot of that. They have a lot more power than I think we want to even acknowledge. Appreciate you, Dr. L, for that. Anton, thank you for the 5. Miley Cyrus talking of her regret for past decisions prove is that Sunny was that Sun, what was the name? Saniad or Sunny? Saniad O'Connor? Sinead O'Connor won that argument all them years ago. And keep in mind, man, if you actually looked at her exes and some of the actors she's been with and the guys that she's had opportunities with, these are guys that women would kill for. I believe the one guy was Captain America's brother, who was also another actor, and they look almost like twins. And she mentioned, like she said, it isn't till the real world hits you. And a lot of guys is like, I can't do this. I can't share so much of what should be with me and my relationship with the whole public. To Jack, thank you for the $10. I look forward to Mondays in this gorgeous panel of Black women with a good brother as the host. Thank you, good sir, for that. Who else we got? Jeff St. James's loud voice. Thank you for the $2. She lives in Backdoria for 6. Man, thank you for the $2. That is horrible. Anton, thank you for another 5. I tune in just to see Maggie's face when the convo turns R-rated. It always makes me laugh. And then last but not least, Growth Talk. Thank you for the 5. The reality is many women are just out here handing out punani like Halloween candy. If y'all want to respond to the young lady that was talking about the whole judging men based on bisexuality or any of the other clips where y'all want to go back to, Crimson, you can go ahead first.
I wanna talk about that because does body count matter? Yes. Number 2, are people asking that question as if it matters? No. The men don't answer. I'm 48 years old. I ain't never been asked by no man my body count. Now, when I'm serious, I eat 2 times when I get married. I volunteer my sexual history. Okay? I've never been asked that. I volunteer it because, as you stated before, Mr. Jeff, people have a right to have information. Now, I ain't got nothing in it that's crazy anyway, but it is what it is, whatever. Okay? I just give you the opportunity to see whether or not you think it's crazy or whatever the case may be, because it is what it is. I can't take it back. So it is what it is. I got to accept yours, whatever yours is. But my point is, we can't delude ourselves into thinking people are out here being responsible, having conversations. People are having babies without conversations. People are living together without having a conversation. These are not relationships. People are out here hunching and not even talking to nobody. They don't know who they are. Most men don't know who their baby mama is until after she get pregnant and have that baby. He don't know her. He didn't know her before. She didn't know him until after this. Well, this is why you find, well, why come you chose him as your baby daddy and that's the baby mama? Why come you didn't see this before? No, because they hunched 2 days after they started talking and they didn't really have no conversation and she pregnant now. That's why. That's why, because nobody's being responsible and having these serious conversations to figure out whether or not we're aligned and we're able to have these types of relationships, or whether or not this is going to be good for us 5, 10, 2 years down the line, 10 years down the line. Nobody's being responsible. That's why we're in the situation that we're in, because they're responsible. And you got folks not asking the right questions, making all types of assumptions based on absolutely nothing or past interactions. You got people that's in their 20s and 30s that have never actually been in a relationship. The women too. Just because the women get hunched on don't mean they've been in a relationship. They don't know what's going on. They have no idea what's going on.
Showing is crazy.
They here. Well, where the lie at though? They just because they got a man somewhere hitting on them or wanting to have sex with them, we already know that doesn't mean anything. The men tell you that. Men tell you that it don't mean nothing. Just because they want to have sex with you don't mean nothing. That doesn't mean anything beyond they want to have sex with you. That's what that means. That nothing more, nothing less. And if they want a relationship, they have to go further. But a man wanting to have sex with you, it doesn't mean anything to them, to the men. Okay, so those are not options. She not in a relationship. Just like I did a show about the lady that showed up on tonight's conversation talking about she been in a situationship for 23 years and all that kind of stuff. However many years she been in, that man ain't never chose her. He done been with another woman, had kids. He never chose her. She crazy. She in her 40s. That woman was in her 40s. We cannot buy what these women are saying. So is body count, does it matter? Yes, it does. Absolutely. Do people have the right? Should they have these conversations and be honest with one another and make sure that you know what I'm saying? Yes, they should. Last point. I don't know if it's a 1-to-1 though.
In terms of blame,
whether or not a man has been with another man, because see, that's a different ball game. That's not just sex. I can't compete when you want when you want to do the bending. I can't compete with that. What I'm gonna do that? When you get the urge to do the bending, then what? What does that mean?
I'm gonna say this, Crimson. There's some signs, and shout out to Mr. Fantastic when he talked about we need to redefine what is heterosexual masculinity actually mean, because nowadays there's a lot of blurring of the lines.
It ain't
First of
blurring.
all, no. Well, I'm saying a lot of these. The reason why she felt so comfortable saying that is because there is a lot of blurred lines going on right now.
Well, who blurring them?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this: some of these men that's in these relationships with women. I'm gonna tell y'all something. Last year, I went to a friend's. I think it was his birthday party, whatever. It was a surprise event. It was probably like 30 to 40 people at the crib, and we were all playing this board game. It was late at night. Everybody's drinking, having a good time. Music's going, and then when the games began, it was a card game. They're reading out different prompts, and people got to raise their hand or say, if it was them or if they agree with something. And one of the questions was about I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a way where Maggie ain't gonna log off. The men in their nether regions being shown a certain amount of attention in terms of being down there. Not insertion, but pretty much everything else. And this is in front of men and women and couples. This was on the card. Now, in my head, the way I grew up, even if there's men that's doing this, ain't nobody gonna raise their hand. Ain't nobody gonna say, yeah, I love that. Or me and my girl do that. At least out of that 30 people, probably 6 couples the guys raised their hands. So I think we're in new territory. I think we're in new territory where I think there's a lot of blurred lines. I'm talking about the Gen Z, millennials, even some. It's true. Messy, am I lying?
Have you seen the Quiet on the Creek trend now? Because I feel like that's very telling as well.
Mm-hmm.
That whole football team, wherever they came from, Minnesota, something, and they're doing it, and they're looking very special as they're doing it. It's like 6 big black men where I just don't think that they were doing any of this before this stupid song came out. But they were all good in the hood to sit up here and do it, record it, and put it on the internet. Yeah. They're very proud of that. So you might be right.
Listen, I just think that there's been such a blurring of the lines between men, women, the men that act like women, the men that dress like women. I think there's been so much of blurring of the lines and so much of rejecting any social norms for anything, to where this is why what Crimson said, when we're at, why are we even having a question whether or not it matters? That's why I'm like, it's so bad. It's because it is an actual conversation. It is a debate when it shouldn't be. Now, the argument's going to be twofold. One argument is it matters to the people. They're saying it matters, but it shouldn't matter. They're arguing that people shouldn't be judged for it. It shouldn't be a reference point. And then there's another group that's saying it should matter either because I think it's disgusting, because I think it's a reflection of your poor decision making and this and that. I think a lot of times in these conversations, people aren't using any reference points other than their personal feelings of whether or not and I would argue a lot of times the people who get the most offended and angriest about it, they typically are the ones with the past that they don't want people to know certain things about, or they don't want to be judged for it. So I get the game. So I'm going to play a brief clip and I want to see what y'all think from these two little clips.
Count doesn't matter because I could literally lie. Like, I could be like, oh my gosh, I have 5 bodies. Oh my gosh, I have 2 bodies. Oh my gosh, I have 3. Like, it doesn't matter, and you're not going to be able to tell regardless of how high I say.
Is it a double standard that a high body count for women is criticized while a high body count for men can even be praised? Yes, it is. But the funny thing is that this partly comes from another double standard that exists in our society. That double standard is that men typically initiate and steer the courting process. You'd say, yeah, but how is that related? Let me explain. You see, by itself, a high body count for a woman may not be such a terrible thing. I'll generalize and use assumptions here, and there are exceptions, but a high body count, especially at a younger age, does normally tell you a story about that person. Imagine we have 2 people, a man named Joe and a woman named Vicky, both 25 years old, both with a body count of 100. Due to the double standard I mentioned, where it's the man who initiates and steers the courtship process, for Joe to be able to sleep with 100 women by the age of 25, he had to accomplish a lot in his life. I'll even use conservative estimates here. Imagine Joe sleeps with, on average, every 5th woman he courts, and on average he needs 2 dates to do it. Again, if you're a guy, you probably realize that's a darn good statistic, way above average. That means that to sleep with 100 women, he had to meet 500. Let's even assume that for the 400 women it didn't work out with, he only had 1 date, and for the 100 women he slept with, he had 2 dates on average. That puts him at around 600 dates. So let's be conservative and say that average date cost him $30. For 600 dates, that means he spent $18,000 on dates alone by the age of 25. And that's just dates, on top of the rest of his lifestyle. To be able to do that, most probably, since we're talking an average case here, not some rich kid, Joe works a good job, rents his own place, does sports, has a good social circle. So the point is, to get to this level at 25, Joe has to be the man. The guy other boys see, envy, and look up to as an example. Now let's look at Vicky. Again, we are generalizing here. And again, using the double standard in our world, where women are normally the choosers, attention comes to them, and they don't need to do much for it. Since Vicky was 18, she's been getting a lot of attention, both online and in real life. Guys were approaching her, asking her out, inviting her to parties. When she opened a dating app, she'd be getting hundreds of likes a day, more matches than she could even go through. So naturally, for her, the choices were limitless. So she'd be choosing the top of the heap, the creme de la creme, the guys who'd offer her gifts and interesting experiences. So since she was 18, she'd always have temptations. The choice was between studying, getting a part-time job, or just relaxing and letting the guys take care of her leisure time, her expenses, and the dates. And since the temptation was so high, she enjoyed it. Going to nice parties, meeting guys ready to pay for her and her things. A lavish, interesting, crazy life overshadowed the boring studies or working part-time for pennies. So she chose to enjoy life. We only live once, so who wouldn't? So here she is, 25, with 100 partners, but a very different background compared to Joe. Now, I know this is a generalization, but there are exceptions. Yes, this is only an analogy, perhaps a little exaggerated, but in my opinion, it's a decent analogy nonetheless. And again, this analogy isn't presented to judge. You can decide for yourself what works for you.
Count, just talk to her.
Do you have any employees that work for you?
Yes.
You do. Now, did you look into their history when you hired them?
Of course.
Of course. If you saw someone with a job history of maybe 1, 2, 3 jobs, a long period of time, or someone with 15 jobs, was there for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, you call their employers, they didn't last, which one would you pick based off of if they're equally qualified in the interview?
Whoever interviewed better.
I was saying they're both equally qualified on the interview. So why are you looking into the history
Right.
if someone's meeting for the first time, they interviewed great, why would you even bother looking into the history of it?
So without quibbling with the analogy,
Yeah.
which I could, if we're going to stick with the job interview analogy, I actually think this is an analogy that works in my favor, right? Because you can have people who have only been at one company and have terrific experience,
Yeah.
and then they get on the interview and you realize that they don't know a damn thing.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
And then there's other people who have worked at 10 different companies and jumped around every single year, but then you get on the interview and you realize, that there's a clear explanation for that they have a diversity of experience, and actually they're a really good fit. My argument here is really that, forget body count, just talk to her.
I personally agree with that. I don't
Yeah.
think you have to ask a woman her body count to know, because if you just pay attention, her actions will show you everything you
Her
need to
actions
know.
and attitudes will tell you everything you need to know.
And then I'm also assuming, my other question was, I'm assuming that you're talking about body count matters when it just comes to relationships, not value as a person, correct? Because I would say, like, I don't think people think someone's like less valuable as a human being just based off how much sex they have.
Body count doesn't matter until they're judging another woman's body count, which were the findings from this study where women judged potential female friends based entirely on their body count. The same exact woman was described with 2 past sexual partners in one version, but 20 in the other version. The only difference was her body count, but the woman with 20 partners was judged as less trustworthy, less warm, less emotionally stable, less competent, and less desirable as a friend. The most shocking part is that even women who were more open-minded about casual sex or had more sexual experiences themselves still judge the woman with 20 past sexual partners more negatively.
Yeah, historically, we know historically, women utilize slut shaming, right? That has been around for years. That is how women keep other women in check. Because if we allow these sluts, if we allow these whores, these 304s, to just run rampant and sleep with all these men and sleep with our boyfriend and our brother and everybody, it's like the good women don't stand a chance. They don't stand a chance because now these men are looking at us sideways. Well, where's my free sex? Susie over here giving everybody free sex, and Nita, now you got to give me some free sex. No, I don't. So we have to do that. That has been around since the Dark Ages. Women have to slut shame. They have to keep other women in check, because I believe good feminine women, no, we're not out here giving somebody put in the comments that women are handing out cat like Halloween candy. I got tickled by that because I was like, yeah, that's true. but we all know that's not a good idea, right? It's not a good idea for good feminine women to do that, because you're not going to get loved. You're going to get used. And so, yeah, we kind of use slut shaming to check other women, to say, hey, stop doing this. You're making us all look bad.
What did y'all think about that? Or Anita and Messi, what did y'all think about that parallel of those two guys that were using that analogy of factoring in a person's past to make an informed decision today of the potential person you think they might become? Do you think it's a fair comparison? Messi, you can start with that response to that.
People be lying, so I don't even know. Honestly, me personally, kind of like what Anita just said, you got to go by who the people are, which is what I say all the time. I feel like enough of the time I can tell who's a slut or who's just silly or all those types of things. But like Crimson said earlier, everybody rushing into things so quickly, they don't take the time to get to know each other. Women are easy. There's too many easy women. And I mean, no shame, gentlemen, but the truth be the truth. If she gonna give it to you, you're gonna take it enough of the damn time. So then the expectation is that everybody's supposed to do it. Well, everybody don't do it. And these heifers make it harder for everyone else. So yeah, you're a whore. And that's what we say because it's the truth. So if you want to, I personally, as a person who has hired people, do go by what your past is. Yeah, I'm going to go by the interview. But if the determining factor is that you job hop, well, I'm going to have to do this again in 6 months. Nah, I'll take the longevity person. But that's just me. And that's probably more old fashioned than other people now. I can have experience too. Just because somebody worked one place doesn't mean they worked one job. That just means they worked in one company and could have had several positions within said job. And I don't know that they thought about that when they gave that analogy, because I know in plenty of places that I used to work, I've done different positions in the same company. That was a long time ago. Things are different now, but you know, all that stuff matters and should be taken into account, even though women don't want you to take it into account. It should be.
Yeah. And I love the guy who we just watched where he said that, again, this is the same group that leads the charge with you're not supposed to judge people for the body count. I say a lot of these rules that we're not supposed to be allowed to do, just let women get angry and they're going to say it. They're going to use the very same tactics that they tell everybody else they don't like to use against them. All my 304s demonetized. Thank you for the $5. Reading my username says it all for this topic tonight. Shout out to Jeff and the ladies of the panel. Appreciate you, sir, for the 5. A man supporting men, my guy, man. Thank you. 30 jewels. Clutch. Thank you for that. Dub Will, $4.99. Have a conversation. Come on, Mrs. Kendra. You can't expect adults to actually act like adults, not in 2026. F. Brown, thank you for the $2. Maggie Faces and Messy Mississippi State football. Okay. Mark Elohim with the $100 banger. Oh nah, lie detector test for everyone. Listen, man, I get it out in these streets. It's bad out here. Growth Talk again. Thank you for the 10. The other side of body count is women judge men off a perceived lack of, exactly like I said, the perceived lack of body count, i.e., if he's not perceived to be that dude and pull a bunch of women, he's considered a lame. Absolutely. They judge men in the reverse for the exact same reasons. Diggy, thank you for the 10. So, Jeff, what are you saying is Corey Holcomb might have a past? I don't know what this is. I don't know what you're referencing. I'm leaving that alone. Thank you for the 10 for that. Dub Will, thank you for the $9.99. Someone should have asked the male feminist, would you want your daughter to have a high body count or be selective? He will probably lie, though, if he is a male feminist. And I think that's a great question, because I said it recently during an interview of what self-respecting man, let alone a father, would tell his daughter that body count doesn't matter. And I think that's when it hits home of what that truly means. And outside of revealing that they don't know anything about psychology or attachment, bonding, neurochemistry, they clearly know nothing. But I love when we personalize this question, because I know that if I ever get into any debates, particularly with men who make these arguments, I'm going to ask him that exact question. So thank you, Dub Will, for that. And last but not least, just my 4 cents, $5. No man wants to bring his new girlfriend to his buddy's cookout only to find out she'd already been with 5 of the guys there. Oh, that's a big one. That is a big one. First of all, my issue is, and I've tried to explain it to people, once you, as a guy, once you get to a certain point and you start realizing having respect for yourself and seeing how this matters, you don't want to be with the chick that know all the promoters and bouncers. You don't want to be with she cool with all the athletes, all of them. Why she know them all on first name basis? This is, and she wasn't a cheerleader. This don't make no, like, no, it's just it's a thing. And I appreciate Messy what she said, where it's like, it is a factor. It's going to matter to some people and clearly not others, depending on the circumstance. But I think the greater issue is when people have these discussions, they never really think about the seriousness of where are we getting information from when it comes to the factors. And I'm not going to read these off. I'm just going to make it known that there's actual data that talks about the risk, the whole host of things that happens as a result of messing with your neurochemistry, as a result of dealing with too many people. And that when your oxytocin doesn't bond correctly, when your neuroreceptors don't respond the way that they should, when you're stuck in dopamine loops, you're going to, it sounds bad, but like the normal attachment mechanisms that's supposed to happen when you do have sex, now you're going to be less satisfied with being able to, and even talk about the connections of why it's such a risk for men and women, but they would argue it still affects us differently. And I think that when people don't know this information, again, feel free for anybody that's reading this stuff. You can feel free when you rewind it. You can screenshot this stuff. There's a lot of information that talks about this stuff, and there's meta-analysis now. So this isn't them interviewing 100 people. They're now comparing multiple nations, civilizations, long-term longitudinal data, and it's very, very clear that it actually has a significant impact on men and women. So the idea that it's not a factor, it doesn't affect your sexual conditioning, your attachment, that's a lie. It absolutely does. And the shocking part is y'all see the sexual liberation that we're going through today. Y'all see the marital divorce and gender war nonsense that's going on now, and you saying the sex has nothing to do with it. Does that sound logical? Does that sound logical? So, yeah. So my whole point is, and I meant to mention this part. I did want to read briefly this part. When it came down to behavioral mapping from the Institute of Family Studies, when they were talking about how high partner body count affects both genders. Since for the male driver, it's the Coolidge effect. Men with higher partner counts are biologically driven by the Coolidge effect, a mammalian reflex, where a male exhibits a renewed sexual interest every time a novel female is introduced. A man with a high partner count has heavily conditioned his brain to respond to novelty, making long-term monogamy uniquely difficult. Then on the other side, what does it say? The female driver, the comparison baseline. Women with the higher partner count are more likely to struggle with emotional romantic comparison. They may struggle with the contrast effect, comparing their husband's flaws to the mental composite of the best traits of various partners. I can't see the other part was leading to the marital dissatisfaction. So when we tried to say, again, you had the manosphere guys, the red pill guys, random people saying, you know, she's never going to be satisfied. There's actually data behind it. Shockingly enough, there's actually some data behind it. So Maggie and Crimson, the second piece that I wanted to ask y'all real quick. Where's it at? I don't know if I even pulled it up. When we say whether it does or doesn't matter, regardless of whether or not people will acknowledge it publicly, I want to ask you too, and then I want Anita and Messi to say the same. If you had to throw a number out there of how many women who simultaneously say that body count doesn't matter also regrets the amount of people or men they've been with, what's the percent of those people that you think that actually have regret after 30 or 35 years old? Maggie, you can go first.
100%, Your Honor. I'm so overwhelmed and confused right now. Of course, body count matters. We're asking if body count matters. If it didn't matter, the women with the high body count wouldn't be trying to convince us that it doesn't matter. It just wouldn't matter. And just like this woman in the picture and the other older actress who said, you know, now my body is a temple. Ask these women when they get to their big age. Now they want to scrub their socials. They don't want anybody to know. They want to come to church or rebrand themselves because, of course, it matters. And you know what? You can get angry if you want to, but men are the ones who do the asking. Like Mr. President says, I don't see women giving out rings. You all are collecting them like infinity stones, but you're not getting down on bended knee and willing to take the bullet in case the worst happens. So because men do the asking, they have first right of refusal. It just is what it is. Because you know what? When it says women and children first, I've never seen a woman say, no, big, strong man, you get in front of me. We want to be vulnerable when it helps us. So for me, I say, you know, I've been in a relationship since 1842. When you're just out of the dating market, this stuff just passes over you. I'm overwhelmed and really disturbed by people trying to change the narrative to fit them. So again, men are the ones who establish relationships. Ladies, don't believe me? Go up to the man of your dreams and say, I like you, you like me, we go together now. It doesn't work that way. Like Miss Crimson said, people aren't having conversations. You're not in a relationship until you've had a conversation. You're not in a relationship until some level of commitment has been established. While you're jumping in the sheets before that, you deal with the consequences of that. But you can't turn back time and now say, okay, erase the past. That doesn't count. And I can't tell you how many women, older women that I used to coach, when I would ask them, okay, you're in a relationship. What has he said he wants? What is the role that he wants you to play in this relationship? And they're just blinking fast and slow, deaf, dumb, and mute, because nobody had a conversation. We didn't establish that we're in a relationship. We're just doing stuff. And then you get mad when the doing stuff doesn't go anywhere. So again, women know that. That's why they play these games. Like Miss Crimson said, you just jump in the bed and want to do all the things, thinking if I just do all the things, if I just spend time with them, if I just give them access and this one access and this one access, somebody will just select me over time. You're not being graded on a scale like that. A man is intentional, and the reason why he's vetting is because he's looking for somebody who's going to be there for the long haul. And if you've been handing your body parts out like Hosea feed the homeless, he doesn't want that. I'm gonna tell you something about men. Men do not like to share. They don't want to share their plate. They don't want to share their car. They don't want to share their. So why do we think that the nature of a masculine man is going to be like, okay, Miley Cyrus, I know you want to share your body with everybody. I'm okay with that. You get what you get. So this is where it's gotten us. So I say, ladies, especially the young brides that I talk to, I say, bring back young marriage, stay in your relationship, because it's just a mess out here if we're trying to redefine and we need to explain. And I don't even know what happened at that party, Jeff. I'm just, my mind is blown. I don't think I want to know. But at the end of the day, this will not last. This is just, it's got the megaphone right now, but people are trying to act like we don't know what a man is and what a woman is. Didn't we just go through the foolishness with the pronouns? Now we don't do that anymore. Didn't we just go through the foolishness with the, the TRANS and all of that? We know what it is. The women know and the men know. There is a natural biology and what comes with it. Is it equal? No, but I've been saying that forever. We are not equal. We are equally valued. We are very different. There are some things that benefit men and are, harder for us. There are a lot of things that benefit us that are harder for men. So we need to get over this. Yes, absolutely. Body count matters, because look at all these women in their golden years now trying to pretend like the past didn't happen when good and well it did.
Esther Crayq, shout out to her. She was on last week from the UK. She said something that I never quite heard articulated the way Kevin Samuels and others have said it similarly, but what she said was, it is an act of dehumanization when you tell men that they are not allowed to have standards for the types of women that they're going to marry, have sex with, and bring into their life and assume all of these legal responsibilities, let alone have children with. You're basically telling them it doesn't matter if she used to be a nun or a sex worker. You just got to be grateful for the fact and just accept her as is. You're not allowed to factor anything she's done or how she's carried herself or what she's bringing with her in those decisions and that decision making. You're not allowed to do that. Women can, you can't, and that's dehumanizing. This isn't about just preference when they say, "Oh, they're dehumanizing you as a man," when they're telling these young boys and men, ignore the red flags, ignore the warning signs, ignore like this the crazy part. For anybody who's serious and let alone if you let your own daughters do this, think about this logically. Do you know one of the key core signs that somebody's been through significant trauma is hypersexuality? You got to ask yourself a very simple logical question. If someone goes through the worst thing that's ever happened to them, and one of the ways that people will try to do a maladaptive approach to either take control, to find themselves, to find feeling and excitement again, whatever is the reason, is to do that. You don't think that should be a factor that people need to pay attention to and wonder, man, well, I wonder how much trauma she's been through to allow all these trains and all these. I wonder, oh, well, wait a minute. So it was not the trauma, but was her daddy around or was her daddy involved? It starts to put puzzle pieces together that you start to realize and find out when you gain and find more information. All of y'all on the panel are probably right that most men that I know, and I've never done it, have ever asked a woman, what is your body count? They're looking at all the traits and signs that will give them that information. So at the end of the day, it does not matter what women say or what public offender or any of the simps or male feminists try to say. It does not matter, because the only men that quote unquote don't care are oftentimes the men that either look like public offender or act like Derek Jackson. That's what come with the territory. So Crimson, what you think?
I'm gonna come back to what you just said.
Okay.
Does body count matter? Of course it does, like I said before. How many women, what's the percentage of women who are saying that it doesn't matter, are having I forgot the exact question that we had when the thing was up there, but I remember the premise of it.
Yeah.
95 or up % of those women who talking about body count don't matter, but would reverse it, are the ones with the high body counts. They're the ones with the high body counts, because that's why they don't want to be. The thing about women is we don't like judgment. We don't like judgment for different things. Sex is one of them. A woman's sexuality is one of them, because a woman's sexuality is always heavily judged, no matter whether she's a virgin or a whore. So the women who have the high body counts are the ones invested in trying to tell everybody that a high body count does not matter, because they don't want to be judged about it. I'm going to go circle back to what you just said, because I say this on my channel all the time. The number of sexual partners that a woman has is not the thing that breaks her. She was broken before that. That's the symptom of the break. Because a woman who is not fundamentally broken on some level could not possibly allow it, because it's nasty. It's even nasty to think about a whole bunch of men and you just letting randoms, trains, groups, strange men you don't really know, a whole bunch of different doing just for money, or doing it to get your bills paid, or what, doing it to get your hair done, and all that kind of foolishness, whatever is going on with these women, whether they actually walking the blade or whether they trying to fool themselves to think that they're not sex workers or sex worker adjacent. You're selling it if you're giving your sex away to a man that you're not married to, but you want, because you want him to pay something or buy something or do something. So that's still prostitution, right? By proxy, if that's what you want to do. But the women who, let's just say, a flat out prostitute, when you talk to these, go to Soft White Underbelly channel. He's done so many years of talking to pimps, hoes, and delving into why they went the route that they went. Almost 100% of them, the small minority, came from like a home where they didn't have to do that. The vast majority of those women was either raped, either once or repeatedly as children, and then it just went off the rails, you know what I'm saying? Or they've had some other sexual trauma and it went off the rails for them. That broke them. And for them, it was almost like, I'm not worth nothing, no way. So this is the life that I now live, right? So there's always something that precedes a woman going into sex work, prostitution, and things of that nature. There's a break first. Then that's how she processed it. Now, I'm not saying it's a good processing. I'm just saying it is what it is. When you start talking to these women, they'll tell you about the trauma. And the last thing that I want to say is going to men not actually asking the question. And then there was a super chat saying, was it some type of thing that men need to do? All you have to do, and I can tell men that on my channel, listen to what people saying. The women are not some kind of they not Dr. Strange, okay? They not messing with, they ain't got the reality stone. They can't lie. They really can't. They try to, but they can't really lie, because when she start talking, all you gotta do is let her talk. She's gonna tell you who she is and what she's about and what she's been doing. She gonna always have, if she a hoe, she gonna always have a story about this time, this dude, such and such. She gonna always have a story. And you're gonna be trying to figure out, is this the same dude or different dudes that you've been having? And she gonna always have a story about a dude. Okay, and this, that, and the third. She gonna always have a story. She gonna always have, her behavior tells you, you know what I'm saying? How do she interact with men? What's the energy that she be having when men come around? Like, what is going on with her? These things are telltale signs about whether or not she's a promiscuous, because that's a mindset. It's not just an act. It's a mindset. She's a promiscuous woman. So she's going to be promiscuous. She can try to hide it and act like she ain't going to do that. Da, 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 da. This is why the saying, you can't turn a whore into a housewife, exists. Because a woman that's a whore is a whore. And she can't really cross back over into being a wife. It actually works the other way. A woman that's a wife is a wife. And she can't really cross that boundary into being a whore.
Crimson, you know what else, other than just listening to them, you know what else tells on women all the time? Their nervous systems. And this is why men that poo-poo on psychology don't realize there's a reason why a lot of y'all having these weird, awkward, I need to ask her what she bring to the table. Ain't no man that know how to deal with women ever going to say that. Ain't no man. Most men are not going to have these exact conversations, but they're paying attention to something totally different that gives them the information and the answers they need. Her nervous system is going to tell on her more than the 2 to 3 month time span where she's saying everything she thinks I want to hear. Her nervous system is going to tell on her very easily, for sure. And then Messi and Anita, I want y'all to come in and close us out. I just want to read these super chats before I lose them. Growth Talk, thank you for the 5. One more and I'm done. Don't forget, it's not just men. The ladies are racking up. Some of them like doing arts and crafts. That's crazy. He got the scissors out. It's crazy. Straight buckets, thank you for the 5. If body count doesn't matter, then why do most women lie about their number? Deep down they know it matters. They just don't want to be judged. Exactly what both ladies just said. Big boy, thank you for the $2. Gen Z don't even count condom sex as a body. Oh my god, I have heard that more and more and more, that there's people that's not, when I say people, I really mean women. They're not counting it if a condom was involved, and they're not counting it if they didn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. This is insane. That's why these numbers don't even mean anything now, because you could never add. All my 304s demonetized. Thank you for the 5. Neurochemicals, Jeff. I can tell this is a therapist channel. Say this for the slow ninjas. Don't be exchanging bad juju, swapping bad spirits. Thank you, sir, for that. Death Dare Reaper, thank you for the 5 as well. Some women say it doesn't last long, it doesn't count. Neither do they count giving that Gawk 3000. Hit that like button, everybody, if you haven't done so. We're literally about to close out in the next few minutes. Jeff St. James's Loud Voice, thank you again, sir, for the 5. How many people want to purposely get HSV, HPV, Hep C, or HIV? This hypersexualized culture is killing us. Private Nobody, thank you for the $2. Maggie's facial expressions are priceless. Micah Malice, thank you for the 5. I don't believe the total number makes women regret, because men will never know. I believe their thoughts on bad experiences or lack of connection first. Okay, I could definitely see that too. CT, the God, thank you for the 5. Jeff, the public defender, thank you for that. Who else we got? Death Reaper again, thank you for 2. Nate will always have 40 for you. Thank you. And Micah Malice, listening allows for women to open up and not become or stay defensive. It's easy to make them feel safe, and that is a tool men have been losing. Facts. And then Mogul Maze, thank you for the $15 support. Messi and Anita, what's your closing thoughts about this situation, and is there hope that this can turn around?
No. The guys are right about the what they were saying about they don't count it if it was a bad experience, it didn't last long enough. That is absolutely true. Something else that we've covered is that this is why it's a silly conversation to even have. There's actually a place over there, like Asia somewhere, where they can go and get cleansed.
Restart the body count.
Yes, yes. Re-virginized.
Gotta find that video.
Paying thousands of dollars to come back here and say, "Child, I'm a virgin now," and ain't nobody believing there none of that. So you can say it doesn't matter, but why in the heck are you going all the way over there to pay thousands of dollars in order to come back to say I'm a virgin now? So they be lying. So that's why it's not going to change. You know, I'm the pessimist, though.
No. I think you're a realist.
Going to get the super duper grand master of Yanni steams.
Hold on. So that means the church and the pastor and the anointing isn't cleansing them enough. Now they got to go overseas and get a whole new rewashing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's better than the Holy Ghost
they're
apparently.
outside in the woods and the jungle or whatever it is with people pouring stuff over their head like it's crazy. We just
And they be
covered it about a
yelling
month
and screaming and while they do
ago. Wow.
They need to restart their body count. This is amazing. This is amazing. Anita, why don't you close this out? What you think?
One of the things I find so interesting, though, about this hypersexualized culture and what we're seeing, I'm going to say in the last like 25 years, because that's kind of what I've been noticing, is what's curious to me. We know there is an orgasm gap, right? That's a very real thing. And while some people would say that maybe that gap is closing, I've heard a lot of younger women, Gen Z women, who are saying, no, I'm actually enjoying the sex. I'm actually orgasming from the sex. I'm not 100% buying it. I think women's reasons for having all of this sex versus their enjoyment of the actual sex, like I still say there's kind of this disconnect.
Anita, they hunching. They hunching. All right. But I'm gonna tell you right now, when I grew up in high school, freshman year 2004, there was one girl in the entire school, and we had over 1,000 students at the time. There was one girl in the entire school that was pregnant. By the time I got to senior year, the women wasn't all having miserable sex, Anita. They were happily pregnant. They was in the gyms. They was in behind the columns area. They was sneaking off into different closets and whatnot. We had different shops that people could choose. I'm telling you, the young ladies was enjoying it, and college was no different. College was no different unless the sex was bad. I mean, you don't rack up 65 times because 64 of them was bad. It's because you're probably enjoying it to a degree too. A lot of them. And the only ones that I would separate from if they're actually enjoying it or not are the ones that's moving way past like situationships, my boyfriend, even just random one night stands versus the ones that are strictly doing it for transactional purposes. They may have the disconnect. They may, not be actually getting much out of it because their emotions isn't fully connected to the actual act that's happening. But the ones that's doing it and it's not really transactional, they just outside. Hot Girl Summer, it's about enjoying it. Hot Girl Summer is about enjoying it. Listen, the lifestyle wouldn't be what it is if women weren't actually enjoying it. They're younger. And remember, when Stella got her groove back, we keep talking about these age gap situations. A lot of these older women getting tore down too. I'm just saying, 55, 65-year-old women, they may still look like something. They going on these islands. They getting these rub downs. They got the young boys who can just bring the sling and they gotta do much else. It's real. They enjoy. Anita, you talking to the wrong women. They
Okay, but is it possible? Let's think about this clinically. Let's think about this. Let's think about this biologically. Yeah. Is it possible that we know biologically that women produce oxytocin, and that oxytocin is released through orgasm, but it's also released just through the closeness. It's released through the touching, right? A woman can release oxytocin whether she has an orgasm or not. So sometimes I wonder if that's what women are chasing.
That's possible.
They're chasing the oxytocin, because I'm just going to be honest with you. The women that I'm talking to, when I'm really like, no, for real, tell me for real, have you had an orgasm? Do you know what that's like? Are you having an orgasm 9 times out of 10? And most of them are saying no.
I've always separated it. I've always separated between women that are in long-term committed relationships where the flame, that they're not getting it from the same, if they're getting it from the same guy, the sex has declined, maybe they're not as happy as they used to, versus women that's racking up these massive body counts. To me, that's the difference. And you're right that they are chasing that dopamine loop.
Something else. I think it's something else.
Man, we're all operating off of vasopressin. So we're at a totally different operating system when it comes to this, and this is not a bonding thing for us. It's not, and they think that that's why they get so offended when they find out a guy sleeping with another chick, and he's like, I don't even remember her name, I don't even know who she is, because there doesn't have to be much of a bonding experience for us in order for us to enjoy it and get off on it. So you're right, there may be more going on with that for sure. And then let me make sure. Oh, snap. And then last but not least, to close this out, Death Reaper again for $2. A lot of these coochies need the Death Note. That's a crazy anime reference for everybody who is not a fan of anime. Feel free to watch Death Note, my personal number one all-time favorite anime. The B, thank you for the $5. It matters why, but why? It forms me of her judgment, discipline, moral, self-respect. I can't trust a woman who's accustomed to being with many men. And then last two, Geo, it was a Geo for show. Thank you for the $4.99. Jeff and panel. Is surrogacy and single fatherhood the most safest guaranteed way to have a legacy, kids without the risk of a woman sabotaging everything? Listen, man, I think two things could be true. That's technically right, but I don't recommend it for the same reason I don't recommend it for Ebony K. Williams and these women signing up to be single mothers intentionally. But I understand the risk of being in an environment where you're not seen as equally apparent as a man by default. I get that. I understand that. I know the odds are not in your favor. But thank you, sir, for the $4.99. And then Juan Thomason, thank you last but not least for the $5. I know the focus nowadays is on Gen Z, but man, was the millennials were worse at the time. They're pretty much cooked at this point. The millennials was outside, man. I think every generation probably had their run, and people that partake and people that didn't. I just think it's more common, unfortunately, now. Dub Will, thank you for the $4.99. So promiscuity is comparable to drug addicts chasing their first high. Yeah, if people didn't know that, it actually operates very similarly when it comes to neurochemistry. And it'd be a fascinating thing in terms of attachment for people to look into. And last but not least, $2. Please don't forget to use the... All right, everybody. So everybody, thank you for everybody that's tuned in. I'm gonna ask y'all again, make sure that y'all like whatever you're watching from. Make sure that you like the video. Make sure that y'all share it. Make sure y'all hype up these videos. These people are hardworking content creators. And last but not least, feel free to support everybody and follow everybody that you see on the screen. So everybody have a good evening, good day. We'll see y'all on the other side. Peace.